Welcome to Unapologetically Fly, the podcast dedicated to giving you the tools, inspiration, and information you need to finally live for yourself, no matter the age, situation, or circumstance. I'm your host, Renee Mitchell-Simpson, the self-love and happiness coach and founder of Well Diva Lifestyle and Travel, the premier luxury wellness travel sisterhood for the flyest of aunties. Now get ready to ride along on my journey of reinvention, even at this big age, because sis, I need you to know it truly is never too late to fly. And by fly, I mean finally live for yourself. Hey, friend.
I'm so glad to be here on the couch.
Okay, so y'all know I gotta take the glasses off because I gotta try to look cute, right?
Actually, I have to tell you, you look absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you.
I mean, you didn't look bad before, but I think that menopause looks good on you.
Oh, okay. It's menopause. We're gonna give credit to menopause.
Okay. The whole evolutionary process that you're going through.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. You are just, there's a whole different energy to you this year.
Yeah.
Last time I was on the couch was last year at the Christmas party.
Yes.
And you look amazing.
Well, thank you. I feel good.
I see you starting to unlock the keys of being in perimenopause and going through this menopausal process.
Yeah, I started hitting the gym.
Okay, that's essential.
I started lifting weights.
And that's essential.
Yeah, I started to do more weight-bearing exercise and learn about the benefits and how we, especially as mature women and men, need to make sure that we are doing our weight-bearing exercise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are certain keys that you have to unlock during midlife, and that's for men, that's andropause, and for women, that's menopause. The things that you did in your 20s and in your 30s, and sometimes even in your 40s, just doesn't serve you any longer, and it will not help actually prolong your life.
Okay, and I didn't even get to introduce you.
Oh, okay.
All right, so welcome to another episode of Unapologetically Fly, and I have a wonderful guest here today, Karen Jones.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Jones. I'm a menopause and midlife educator. I came by this after spending 12 years in perimenopause and having 36 of the known and somewhat lesser known symptoms. Because I was cancer adjacent, I was not able to spend the entirety of my perimenopausal life on hormones. And right now, I realize that what starts in perimenopause, if you don't work it all out, will persist in postmenopause.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
Perimenopause, postmenopause, menopause, I've heard different things. I even heard a doctor say menopause is actually only one day and that the whole rest of it is peri and post. Okay, help us break all that down.
Okay. So I think there are a lot of different philosophies. Like there's some people who subscribe to there are 4 different stages. You have premenopause, where your body is getting ready. That's in your 30s, where the collagen starts to drop and you start to feel things a little differently. Then you have perimenopause. Perimenopause being that place where it can be as short for some women as 2 to 3 years or as prolonged as 10 to 12 years, where your body will start to make that transit, recognizing that the estrogen production in your body starts to drop. Ergo, the testosterone changes, the progesterone changes, your cortisol will change. And there are a whole lot of things that are interwoven that will make a difference. So that's your perimenopausal phase, where those hormones are starting to shift downwards. So it's the inverse of when we went through puberty. And then postmenopause is basically after your menses, after your period stops. Now, you said a doctor mentioned something about your post, she
said menopause is one day.
So I think what she's saying is it's kind of like giving birth. There's one day that your period stops, where your period pauses. I think that's the mindset that she's going from.
Oh,
you see what I'm saying?
I don't remember when that was.
I remember the day. I was 10 years old. I was in the 5th grade. It was around before lunchtime. I was wearing a purple.
Wait, you're talking about when it started.
When
I
it
thought we were talking about
started,
when it stopped.
when my period stopped, I had a myomectomy, which is a surgery to remove fibroids. And I had my period the morning of the surgery. That next day, I didn't have my period, and it started getting really sketch. And then it just was never the same.
Okay. Well, so I guess because of the surgery, though, that would help you remember.
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely a line in the sand, because you know how when you're going for surgery, they said, well, when was your last period? I said, well, I have it today.
I could not tell you.
Really?
What I did notice, it would go away for several months, and then as soon as I got on a trip, that's when it would come back.
Now, are you totally relaxed when you're on the trip, or very stressed when you're on the trips?
Probably more stressed than I realized. I mean, it's work. When I'm at home, I work from home. It's just me and my computer. When I go on the trips, I'm leading a group. I'm managing everything. I'm definitely not sleeping. So yeah, that's the difference.
So I want to kind of finish fleshing out. Does that answer your question about premenopause, perimenopause, and the postmenopause? Does that answer that question?
Well, I get that, but her saying menopause is one day. You're saying it's the day of your last period?
That's what she's saying. That meant your menstruation pauses, meaning that last day.
Okay.
So I think that's what she's saying from that. But I see what she's saying, but I don't agree with it, because perimenopause is that progression. It is the gradual, like a lot of women realize they're in perimenopause because they can't sleep. They have insomnia. You wake up and you go to sleep at 9:30, and you wake up, it's like, it's not 6:30, it's 1 in the morning. Okay, for some women it's that. For some women, it becomes the moodiness.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Some women, it's the weight gain.
Yeah, I experienced it.
For some women, it's the itchy skin.
Yeah, okay, I thought that was normal.
So for some women, it's the hair loss.
Oh yeah, I know all about that.
You know, it's like for some women, it becomes the brittle nails.
Oh, okay.
Have beautiful long nails, and all of a sudden their nails are brittle. For some women, it becomes hot flashes.
I was gonna say allergic to red wine all of a sudden.
Really?
I switched to white, and then when I started working on the weight loss, I just stopped drinking it altogether, and that did it.
Well, I found for myself that I no longer drink like regular coffee, caffeine, because that was a trigger for my hot flashes. Caffeine, as well as something you just said, alcohol.
Okay, for me, it's not. Thank God, it's not caffeine, because I love I wake up and get out the bed for my coffee.
Really?
But one thing I think for me is corn.
Corn makes you flash?
I think so.
Well, one of the things, that's another significant change. Women develop or cultivate allergies that they've never had before. Like, I have a friend who said her aunt used to love shellfish, and all of a sudden she got into her 50s and cultivated this allergy. Because your body's in this hormonal shift, what was up is now down, and what was down is now up.
Now that I think about it, my mom, who loved shellfish more than anybody I've ever encountered, she had to stop eating it. Now, because I follow a mostly vegan diet, I stopped eating it years ago, so I thank God didn't experience that.
There's so many things. One of the other things that women kind of find is some women find that are struggling with depression, and women who have had mental health challenges, such as depression or bipolar challenges, that becomes a bigger thing, because that becomes a byproduct of being in menopause as well. Overwhelm, anxiety.
Okay, so now we are in postmenopause, or are we in menopause, if we're still having these symptoms?
Menopause is the entire arc.
Okay.
It's from perimenopause to postmenopause.
So we're still in menopause.
So
are we always going to be in menopause?
You're always going to be in menopause. Once your period stops, your menses has stopped. Your menses have paused. Meno has paused.
But the symptoms
will still go on. You are postmenopausal. Okay, post meaning that your menses have stopped. And so now everything else changes. And then the issues change again.
Huh?
It's a whole new set of issues and challenges when you are postmenopausal. So the perimenopausal challenges are the estrogen decline issues.
Yeah.
Now that everything is kind of settling, and with the mistake that a lot of women in postmenopause make is they say, well, I don't have to bother with those hormones. I'm fine. I know that my libido, like my cha-cha is dry. I've got lube. I know that I have some moods, or I don't have I have night sweats, so I have an air conditioner or a fan. We make adaptations without kind of circling back and saying, in order to be balanced, you really do need those hormones. You need to find either holistically you need to supplement. If you are lucky enough to be able to go and have bioidenticals or HRT, hormone replacement therapy, then that's a mitzvah, as we say on Long Island. But I tend to lean more towards the holistic end of things. So find the supplements that will help. Matt, you said something earlier about stress. Managing your stress is so critical.
That's why I've been doing all those videos on peace.
And you really hit a nail on the head. And I don't know if a lot of women have made this connection. One of the things when I work with women, as I say, start to keep a diary. And one of the things in the book that I'm writing is it has a lot of trackers. Track what your triggers are. Because if you can track your triggers, that helps you to adjust your mindset. It helps you adjust how you are managing your stress and how you are living your life. Because stress, especially in perimenopause, if you don't manage your stress will manage you. Because I used to have cascading hot flashes. I would be turned up. What? Oh my God. And I'd be flashing and flashing and flashing. And I'm like, people are like, what's wrong with her? Just dripping with sweat.
Yeah.
And finally realized, my mother said to me one day, is that really worth the fight? Is it worth getting worked up about? And I was like, okay, maybe not. And whereas a lot of women, you'll see the women who you see in the stores turning up all the time, a lot of times now I'm like, bless her heart. She's in perimenopause and doesn't even realize it.
So that's a mood swing that you mentioned.
Oh, absolutely. That 0 to 60.
I don't think I went through that. I don't recall it.
Rage is another symptom that some women struggle with. Not all of them. I was like crazy. I would like try and rip your throat out.
Dang.
It was like I would come in ready for a fight. And it was just, and I could not help myself.
Look, but could you really fight?
No, but I can make you cry. I can compromise your job.
Oh my goodness.
It's, and the people don't realize, I said to somebody one time, a lot of women who are struggling through menopause don't really know how their symptoms are really impacting other people. Because they're so trying to figure out what is going on with their bodies.
Yeah.
What is happening to me? Why don't I feel like myself? Why am I not responding the way that I normally have all my life? And so that's a part of, I had a post up the other day, conversations about, are you changing or are you evolving? Menopause not handled well makes you change. Menopause handled well allows you to evolve.
I feel like I'm handling it well.
You are. You very much are.
You think?
Very much. We had a conversation, I remember January, February, and you said, girl, no, that's going to mess with my peace. I cannot do that.
Well, what was it?
We were talking about an individual, and you were like,
oh.
No.
Yeah.
No. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people will ride those things out, from relationships with men to relationships with women to, friendships. Remember we had the conversation about friendships. The thing I love, and I never thought I'd hear myself say this, the thing I love about menopause is it allows you to really unpack who you are and why you've made some of the choices and decisions and the turns that you've made. Because now you've got to, like, here's an example. All of my life I was a size 8, size 6. Menopause, and I was like, I'm cute, I'm smart. And then menopause was like, bam. And now you might be cute, but you're not a size 6 cute. We're gonna need you to lean a little bit more into the personality, a little bit more character, ma'am.
And so for me, it was always, I can just adjust my diet to make sure that I stay a certain size. And 20 pounds later, I'm like, what happened? What happened? And that's when I found out I had to get up off my tail and start hitting that gym, something I have never, ever been consistent with.
That insulin resistance, it's the cortisol. I like to call it now the cortisol girdle. That the more you stress, the more you thicken around the middle. Forget FUPA. It's all this up in here.
Did you see that video I did where I was like, girl, I had on this brown dress and I was like, all I need is a Spanx. Did you see it?
I saw one. You had the comparison of this is me.
That was the before and after.
I was like, oh, I said she looks so amazing.
Yeah, girl. But in that other one, I was like, I was in the dressing room and I was trying on this dress at Nordstrom and I was like, all I need is a Spanx. And then I was like, girl, you know you need more than a Spanx. So that's when I made that change.
There's nothing worse than that time where it's like, I remember I was with my ex-fiance at the time and I said, well, what about this? He goes, no, baby, not right now.
Oh.
And I tried on something, he goes, no, baby, not right now. Oh. And I was like, that's the fourth time you said that. So what are you trying to say? He's like, it's between the weight gain that starts during perimenopause really makes you, and coupled with the bloat, really makes you step back. And you are miles ahead of many women because you've adjusted your diet.
Girl, okay, yeah. Now my diet, that was something that like I had been following a pretty healthy diet since the 80s.
Yep.
So yeah, that was something I kind of grew up with. And then I went fully vegan, or like I said, mostly vegan about 4 years ago. But that was a huge adjustment having to start hitting that gym.
The gym makes a big difference. I know for me, the gym helped me to manage my insomnia because at least if I knocked down 4 miles every day, it was twofold. The gym helped me manage the insomnia, it helped me to manage my weight, and it helped me to manage my stress. So a lot of women who don't get into the gym and do weight-bearing exercise because osteoporosis is real. And a lot of women don't realize it's like, oh, I don't want to become bulky. Oh, I don't want to do that.
You're not about to become bulky, sis.
No, not unless you are really lifting hard and heavy.
Even then, you got to be taking some testosterone steroids.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't do that. That's just not normal for women.
Because I've seen some women who are cut, who are very built, but once again, it might even be a thing of lower estrogen, higher testosterone where they're doing that. But every woman needs to be you need to be lifting at a minimum 10 to 20 pounds heavier. Like this morning I went walking with a 25-pound vest on.
I've been wanting to get that vest.
That'll humble you.
But especially your thigh muscles, just because as we age, we want to make sure that we can still get ourselves up if we fall, get out of the bathtub, like, into our 70s and 80s and beyond.
It's a lot of people don't realize, and that's like a significant point, that doing the weight-bearing exercises, it's going to help you continue to bounce out of bed. It's going to help you prevent those hip injuries so that if you want to go roller skating or go skiing and you fall, that's not the end of your story.
Yeah.
So it becomes a big thing.
And I want to talk about, especially as a dietitian, I want to talk about diet.
You're such a cheater. I forgot you were a dietitian, so that was why it was easier for you to like.
Well, no, that's why I became a dietitian, because I grew up eating so healthy and I was always telling people how to eat that I said, let me go get a degree for this and make a career out of it. That's how that happened.
For me, I think the diet, I've always pretty much eaten clean. I've been talking about dirty chicken and food with hormones and steroids and antibiotics in it, God, since 1990 something. And that's why it was so stunning and jarring for me to gain weight during perimenopause. It was like, I was literally eat salad, protein, water, alkaline water, not a lot of alcohol, not a lot of flesh. And then to jump from go from a size 6 to a size 8 and then to a 10 in 6 months was like.
So it sounds like with you, maybe the same thing as me, is the movement, the exercise?
No, I was lifting for 20 minutes a day, and I was doing 4 miles a day, and then increase it to 5 to 8. It was my thyroid.
Oh.
Yep. So regardless of what I was eating, it wasn't processing. But for a lot of women, the diet is significant. I like to tell women, you are not your child's personal garbage can.
I know that's real.
Stop eating.
I just said that last week. Like that's my food
Yeah,
mantra
yep.
is I am not a garbage can. I'm not eating something that should have been going in the garbage.
Or if your child doesn't eat it, that doesn't mean you should. It's like I said to somebody, I said, when did
Doing
women
that.
start? I was in a restaurant and this woman in Buckhead, I forget the place. The kid didn't eat the broccoli. The mother reaches over and she starts eating the broccoli.
Now I might eat the broccoli.
Okay, now I get that, but then it makes me say, what else are you eating at home?
Right.
What else are you the food disposal for? So it's like really, and that kind of pivots into making yourself the priority. You are the most important person in this
Amen.
experience. I have said many times, being in perimenopause and menopause will make you reprioritize how you see yourself in this world, and as you move through this world. It's a very different experience. When you have a hot flash because something is going on outside of you that you've internalized, you really start to stop and step back and see things differently.
Now, speaking of hot flash and nutrition, I'm very aware that soy can help minimize those hot flashes, but a lot of people, they're soy sensitive or they're afraid to have soy because of what they've heard.
Fibroids.
Right.
Estrogen.
Right.
One of the things that I've noted is I was very estrogen dominant. Hence, I mentioned I got my period when I was 10. So for me, I had to be and I had uterine fibroids, so I had to be really, really careful about what I was putting in. Hence, I was eating very clean. Products with soy, well, on the face of it, looks great, but there are things like everything from edamame to tofu to things of that nature I wouldn't eat because of the estrogen. So you have to find the workarounds. There are other ways to kind of get some of the nutrients that soy provides. But for the most part, soy as a protein source is good, but there are other things now that I think are better.
What are some of the other things you recommend?
Generally going plant-based, and now I think being plant-based has a whole different face because people are thinking Impossible Burgers and things like that, and it's not that. I think I tend to look at things like the sea moss. I think of things like, what is it, some of the things that I eat a lot now. I tend to go more, right now I'm pescatarian and I'm really exploring the whole vegan portion of things. So, but that's why I kind of walked away from soy to try and find other things, more plant-based, more legumes, things of that nature. But there's so many beans. I had a season of beans one year where all I did was eat beans and soup and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That got stale after about 7 months.
And lentils.
Lentils.
I add a lot of protein powder to my smoothies.
Whey or plant? Pea protein.
Plant. Pea protein. Yeah. And I add a scoop of peanut butter powder to my coffee.
Absolutely.
Just to make sure I get some protein first thing.
You know what? It's funny you say that. I have really pivoted. I take things like Shilajit. I take things now like I'm thinking I do protein powder. I do some of the mushrooms, the different types of mushrooms, like lion's mane. That's another thing. The brain fog. Definitely. You just don't think you've got dementia yet. Just wait.
Let me just say that I experienced the brain fog from gluten.
Really?
Yes, honey. It was in the 90s that my memory started getting so bad. And I didn't really pay too much attention to it until around early 2000s or mid 2000s. It got so bad that I could hardly put a sentence together. Like my memory was bad, the brain fog was bad, and then I was struggling to even speak. And I did a gluten-free diet for, I think it was 3 weeks. And that was just because I had started a new job and I was testing out the menu, trying to see if they offered enough gluten-free options. So it was really by accident. And 3 weeks later, I started to put gluten back in my diet, and that's when I realized the heartburn and indigestion and the memory loss and the brain fog and everything had disappeared, and I didn't even realize it.
That was kind of something for me with gluten. I realized that my stomach was constantly in turmoil. And I had a spate of time where I didn't have any bread, any beer, any of those common things, pasta. And I was like, wait a minute, this is what's been tearing my stomach up? And that's how I discovered kombucha too.
And so what I do now, I laid off gluten for like 6 years. Gave my system a chance to
Total
just
reduce the
renew.
inflammation.
Yeah, I was much better. I lost like 30 pounds. And I started back to gluten, but what I do now is I buy organic flour, or I'll just have gluten when I'm out of the U.S. because
Okay.
this mess here.
It's not normal. It's really not normal. One of the things, really kind of, I guess, putting a lid on this part of thing, your diet and your hydration is so critical during menopause. When you're in this arc from perimenopause and even through to postmenopause. Like we're sitting here sipping water. It's people don't realize it, but hot flashes are really driven by the hydration as well as the flux and the estrogen.
Okay.
A lot of the skin complaints that people have is going to be driven by your hydration. And I'm not just talking tap water. Don't.
Oh, Lord, please. I haven't. Now, I haven't touched tap water in several years.
My family used to say, "Oh, you're so highfalutin.
Yes,
You're so
I
sedate.
am. Yes.
You can't drink tap water."
No.
No, I said, and I don't give it to my dog either. So I said,
Goodness. I give it to the dog.
I'm like, no, ma'am, we are not drinking that. But it's like, and what made me really particularly sensitive, I'm originally from New York, Long Island specifically. And a lot of people on the block that I grew up on developed cancer. So if you have a neighborhood with maybe 20 houses and 8 or 9 people develop cancer, that's more than a coincidence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's no good. So water, I take my water very seriously. I take organic food seriously too. Do you eat organic or do you eat somewhat organic?
So I've eaten organic for several years, but now I know more recently in the U.S., foods can be labeled as organic, and they are not organic, so we're paying extra for nothing. And that's why I'm planning to leave the U.S. because this is ridiculous.
Oh my.
Girl.
Up until I remember the year that there was a lot of conversation because I've shopped at Whole Foods for over 10 years. And people were saying, especially, it was pre-Amazon's owning Whole Foods. And people saying, is this really, we have farmers that grow organically, we have those who are gilding the lily, and those who don't at all. And the organic farmers were like, wait a minute, we're paying all of this to grow organically, and this guy over here is coming in and he's charging less and taking the business. And I realized that there was a difference. I don't know how long you shop at Whole Foods or no, or maybe.
Not really. Not
Okay.
really.
One of the things I noticed when I used to shop at Whole Foods in like more than 10 years ago, let's say 18 years ago, the strawberries were redder. The strawberries had strawberry flavor. The watermelon wasn't mealy. It was good. It was like the food had seeds in them. And then now that we're playing with, organic and not organic, we're in this mess. And like you said, I remember being in South Africa in January, and I was like, the food here tastes different. The fruit you can taste the flavors of the fruit. And so I encourage every woman, if you don't eat vegetables, if you don't eat fruit, if you don't eat seeds and nuts, make sure you start to get that in your diet and get as close to organic as possible. Because if you don't, your body needs that to kind of start working. Which brings me to constipation.
Oh.
So a lot of women who are in menopause start to swing between, I don't know if you had this, between the diarrhea and then the constipation.
No, I didn't experience that.
A lot of people, and that's what contributes to the bloat a lot, because people are not hydrated, they're not eating properly, they're not eating enough fruit and getting enough vitamin D as in the sun.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people tend to end up very constipated, which brings on a whole bunch of other stuff. So make sure that you're eating the flaxseed, your oat fiber, your oatmeal.
Chia seeds.
Chia seeds. What? one of the things that I used to do, and I had this, I used to work in healthcare IT, and this doctor said, "What is that you're drinking over there?" And I said, "Oh, it's just what I drink for water every day." And that was, I'd take one of the water bottles, I would drop in like a teaspoon of chia seeds, and then I would squeeze like half a lemon or lime, whatever, in there. I said, it helps fill me up first and foremost. It gives me some of the omegas that I need. And then also, too, with the lemon, it helps to cleanse my liver. So, and she was like, "Oh, really? Like, are you sure about that?" And I think she said something like that. And I'm like, "Yes, I'm very sure about that. Thank you very much." Um, One of the things I think about as I've explored menopause and perimenopause is I think about culturally how all different cultures, women experience this from the beginning of time until now. And I started thinking about how have women in other cultures mastered menopause? How have they moved through it in a way that, because they didn't have bioidentical hormones 40, 50 years ago. How did they do it? What were some of the solutions? And that's what kind of brought me to what are some of the supplements? What are some of the herbs? What are some of the other things that we can deal with to kind of master and manage menopause?
I think I heard they don't have it in Japan. Have you heard that?
I heard that it's because of the diet that they observe, they don't have it to the degree. It's more of kind of like a blip, like how that doctor is saying it's like a day. It's like they go, because think about it, there's very much a pescatarian-esque kind of life. So you have fish and you have rice.
And a lot of soy.
And a lot of soy. So they're already got a lot of those soy isoflavones and things like that going in their body. So they're less inclined to have these severe drops in estrogen because soy helps produce estrogen in your body. What are some of the things about menopause you think that really stop women and make them not as much themselves? Or make them question who and where they are?
Make them not themselves.
Make them feel less like themselves.
The energy shift for one.
Okay.
Of course, the weight gain, especially around the middle. Insomnia, which of course that's going to affect your energy. Brain fog. I mean, it's a lot of things.
The insomnia is connected to the brain fog. The one thing, if we end this conversation right here, the one thing I tell people is you say protect your peace, I will say protect your sleep. Because sleep is connected to brain function. Sleep is connected to cellular regeneration. Sleep is connected to that whole energy store. Sleep is connected to how you function at work or with your family, with your mood swings.
Okay.
So if, as I said, if we stop this conversation right now, I'd say figure out a way to maintain good sleep hygiene as well as getting yourself rest. And there's no shame in taking a nap.
So sleep hygiene, I did address that in my, I did it like a 20-page document that you can get on my website and on the YouTube channel, and it's called Snatched in 17. And I definitely had a whole section in there about sleep hygiene, but I wanted to see, if you had anything to add to it. I mentioned going for a walk in the evening, making sure you don't drink any alcohol because that definitely interferes with your sleep.
Absolutely.
Caffeine, if you're going to have it in the morning and don't have it throughout the day. What else?
Technology.
Yes, and I definitely mentioned that. Making sure that you have no screen time at least an hour before sleep. Wear an eye mask. Get the room darkeners. Make the room as black as you can possibly make it.
Temperature.
Oh,
too.
yes.
Yes. Make sure that you have the optimal temperature.
That room need to be about 65.
Early icebox, my sister used to have it. For me, even when I was perimenopausal, I could not sleep if I was cold. Sleep, I would wait. I might have hot, drenching sweat, but I will wake up in the dead of night if I'm cold.
Okay, let me tell you my room temperature recipe. Because it's a recipe. So the thermostat is on 64.
God bless the Americans.
I must have heavy blankets because I need the
Weighted
weight.
blankets?
I
Okay.
just have a comforter on top.
Okay.
I need to check into the weighted blanket. I haven't gotten to that yet. Have heavy blankets, and I have on an electric blanket
I heard somebody else was telling me about that.
with the room on 64 though.
Yes, because you need that kind of balance.
Yes.
I used to do down comforter. I still sleep in the down comforter because it's
okay.
light enough that if I have to pull away. Also,
it's
too, I would
warm.
add wicking. Don't sleep naked because you'll just sweat. Have something that's water wicking.
So I always sleep in like a tank top. Like
Is it water wicking?
no, it's not. No, but I don't really sweat that much. If I do, I just throw everything off.
I have a hot flash. I started getting up and going to the gym at 5 in the morning, 4:35 in the morning, because I have a standing appointment with a hot flash every day from between 5 and 5:30. And depending upon how stressed I was, I would have several. Like this morning, I woke up all sweated out.
Yeah. See, that's why I keep the room so cold. That brings me to the next subject. My daughter just mentioned she works at a daycare.
Oh.
And
Oh,
she
Lord.
said it's cold. She said that the gentleman who I guess owns the place or works there or whatever, he keeps it in the 60s.
Oh.
And so I wanted to you
Absolutely.
mentioned andropause.
Men, okay. And I just about to put up a post about this.
And that's men in their own something like a menopause, male menopause.
Andropause is when the male version of menopause is men are going through the reversal of their hormones. The same way in puberty we would see the guys all of a sudden he was like squeaky voice, and next thing it's like he looks like he's got a little mini mustache going on over there.
Okay.
So it's that same type of thing, and that's when you see men start to develop middies, man titties.
Oh, I was thinking you were talking about like the midriff.
Because of the estrogen. So for
yeah.
them, the testosterone drops and the estrogen increases.
Okay.
And the more we have that gospel bird, the more chicken that we have infused into your diet.
See.
The more the men, you will find your men more developing more estrogen-based kind of looks, curved hips, the whole kind of thing.
So I stopped eating chicken, right? And I'm good with that. I don't miss it. And I feel like more people need to think about it like this. I said, I have had enough fried chicken to last me the rest of my life. And I think if we think about it like that, it may make it a little easier to let go. What do you think?
I agree with you. I guess I feel like unless you were growing your own chickens, unless you were out there, you got a chicken, a hen house or whatever, that's not for you.
Yeah.
Because there are too many hormones, there are too many steroids, the way that they raise them, the whole 9 yards, it's just not healthy. And I'm 100% down with you.
When I moved here to the Atlanta area, I noticed there is a wing place about every 30 feet. Where are all these wings coming from? Like, how many wings can a chicken have? Like, what they doing with the rest of the chicken if they got all these wings? So,
McDonald's for chicken, but see, even with McDonald's, they're not even real. It's not even real chicken.
I'm thinking these are some genetically modified wings. These are not real chicken. We can't be.
Well, first of all, they're GMO. I don't know if you remember Purdue. I remember Purdue chicken, and Purdue chicken were like, first they made them bigger, and then they made them bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden the chickens were almost the size of small turkeys. And people were like, that's not normal.
But they still eating them.
Some people were, and I told my mom, I said, that's not a real chicken. There's something wrong with that chicken. And I think if people really look at the food and stop being, can I say gluttonous? Can I say that? If people stop being greedy about trying to get the biggest piece of chicken or the biggest wing or the biggest breast, it's not, we need to eat, as my dad used to say, we want to eat to live, not live to eat.
Girl, I was going to say, eat like you love yourself.
Oh, yes. I think a lot of women lose, when they get into perimenopause, a lot of the behaviors, a lot of the things that they used to do, they lose because of what their body's doing. Here's one. I don't know if you struggled with this. Cravings, food cravings, particularly sugar cravings.
You
Okay.
see, I'm smiling.
I sure did.
My thing is cake. I love cake.
Now, how
but
long?
I always have.
You always have? See, I never, ever, ever. When I was little, if my mom bought Pop Tarts, I would have 2 Pop Tarts and that would be it.
Oh, that's so sweet.
She said, "Bless your heart." Why at over 40, I'm sitting there going, I could use a Pop Tart or 2. I'm like, ma'am, we don't do Pop Tarts. I don't even like ice cream. But I'm up there, Brewster's. I'd like to have a double. That's crazy. That's an indication for me that my hormones are out of line.
Right.
And a lot of women don't realize that those crazy cravings. You're not pregnant. Why are you craving?
What can they do about that?
There are a couple of things. I've noticed a couple of different products. There's one thing that I've been taking, as a test, lack of a test dummy for this company. It's called MB1. And that helps to, remember we talked about outside of the bioidenticals. This is a company called Array that I love them, Chef's Kiss. They have products that are geared and targeted. There are a couple of ones that I'm working with now. Array and another product called Provitalize. Array has 4 or 5 different products, and what they've done is they've isolated it. So I'll talk about Array first. Array has something for the constipation. They have something for the insomnia. They have something for the bloat. They have something for the energy and for the food cravings. Honest to God, if I could get stock in that company, I seriously would.
Well, do you have an affiliate link or something?
I do have an affiliate link.
Okay, I'll share that.
Okay. One of the other things that there are a couple of products. One of the things that I did recently is certain things that women should have. There's a product that I take every day. It's called Belly Welly. Belly Welly has collagen, which every woman must have because your body really stops producing the same type of collagen it did on the other side of 30 by 35.
And so what does Belly Welly do for you? How does it make you feel?
So Belly Welly has collagen, it has probiotics, it has fiber, and it has electrolytes in it. What I appreciate about it is I drink this year round. In the winter, I drink it hot. In the summertime, I make ice cubes, I make ices, the whole 9 yards with it. What Belly Welly does for me is it helps, the probiotics help my gut health. The fiber helps me when I'm backed up. If I'm messy with my eating, or if things just aren't moving the way they should, the fiber helps kind of get me through. And it's not obtrusive, and it's not gritty. And then with the electrolytes, you need that hydration. So I like that for that. With the Array has something called bloat, and because bromelain, right? How bromelain is made from pineapple. Their product is based around bromelain, so it has digestive enzymes based on bromelain. So if your stomach is bloated, within an hour of taking their product, your stomach starts to settle, and all that bloatiness kind of goes down. I love the fact that in 2019, I'm the only chick in these streets talking about menopause. Now there are companies that are paying attention to the symptoms and really giving us tools to kind of work with that. And then the MB1 helps you to lose weight too, because it helps with that insulin resistance.
Okay, and then is there anything else you wanted to say about andropause?
Andropause. Let's come back around to andropause. Sorry, love. I apologize. Andropause. I think a lot of people sleep on andropause because men are not screaming in the streets and catching on fire. However, men are quietly having their own version of hot flashes. You'll see that guy who turns red in the face where something goes on, or the guy that was really sweet, he becomes a little nasty and snippy and mean. It's the same thing happening to them. It's just that we're used to seeing sweaty men. Seeing a sweaty woman, it's like, oh my God, what's her problem? So you don't see that. You'll notice now there are more men who thicken up in the middle. They'll have that Dunlap. But we just say, oh, he must be married, his wife is cooking well. We don't make that connection. Andropause will also impact their libido. There are some men who don't have sex because their sex drive has plummeted, because their testosterone has plummeted. So I always say to everyone, women and men alike, get your numbers checked, because the same way that for women, your libido changes and your husband comes to you and you're like, leave me alone. I've heard women say, I don't care who you get it from, just leave me alone. No, you do care who you get it from. I have a friend who said that. I'm like, no. Same thing with men. Men will have marriages where there's no sex. They want to cuddle. If your guy's talking about he wants to cuddle more than he wants to that's a problem. And you want to encourage him to get his numbers checked.
And so what numbers do they need to be asking about?
You want to get for women, that's going to be a full female hormone panel. For men, you want them to have a full male hormone panel.
Okay.
They want to test all of those markers that are indicative of the fact that you are in andropause. I think the weight falls on women because societally we've put so much emphasis on whether you're childbearing or not. Mm-hmm. So that's why the eye is on, she's used up. Put her to the side.
Yeah, after that, nobody seems to care.
Exactly. So with men, because men can always father children, their sperm count really is not that connected to. I mean, it is connected to the testosterone, but not in a way. You can kind of have weak swimmers and still impregnate somebody. Mm-hmm. But for women, once those eggs go, we look at them in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
Which is why sometimes I did a workshop one time saying menopause is more than just hot flashes. It's then that other side of it is once you've dealt with the physical aspect of it, it's how are you dealing with the fact that your role or your identity as a woman is changing. Mm-hmm. If you have children, you're still a mom. So you're not really worried about whether or not you're going to have children anymore. If you are a woman who is over 40, who is not married, that becomes a different kind of concern because how you see yourself has changed. For some women, I noticed, I did just kind of randomly looking around, a lot of women over 50 tend to lose their marriage. Because
lose or leave?
Sometimes both. Because the marriage seems to not work anymore because you're not interested in him sexually. He may not be interested in you sexually.
Who told you those were the reasons?
No, I'm going to continue. Okay. You may have theoretically outgrown him, but you just don't have the patience for his bullshit anymore.
Okay.
Because of the lack of patience and the lack of there's something I used to say to some women, it's like that point where you're emptying out your F bucket. Where you just don't have the patience and the elasticity that you used to have when you were in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s. You're like, what? I don't need this aggravation. I don't need this.
Right. And
you're ready to pack him up or pack yourself up and go.
Yeah, I did see a doctor talking about that.
Yeah. I always say it's not just the hot flashes. There's a lot of evolution that has to go on. How you see yourself, how you are taking care of yourself, how you are preparing for the next part. Because one of the things that tends to happen in this arc as well is women start to enter what I like to call aging 360, where now you're not just you're not just a mom, but now you're the caregiver for your parents.
Right.
And that now starts to impact your menopausal journey because that's a whole nother set of stress and concern and worry, ongoing aging, that now impacts your physicality, that now impacts your hot flashes, that now impacts how you're eating, that now impacts all of these other things.
Yeah.
So it's not just I woke up this morning and I had a hot flash, or I couldn't sleep last night and had a night sweat. It's all of these parts are connected together, and we only see menopause as the symptoms. It's like so much more to it.
So any suggestions, recommendations, anything that you want to close out with to help ladies who are dealing with a lot of these symptoms?
I think that's what's important, and I know a lot of doctors don't agree with me. If you're in your 30s or in your 40s, before you start to see any of the significant changes, get your numbers checked. Because the doctors tell you they're practicing, and they're trying to get you in balance. If you feel great and you're 39 and you're juicy and you're feeling sexy and you're feeling, your weight is right and everything, or it could be you at 45 and it's great, get your numbers checked. So we pinpoint, this is where we want to get you back to. Okay. This is your optimal state. It's not like the age of the numbers. Where do you feel the best? So that way, if you're 50, if you're 40, 49 or 55, doc, I believe I'm in perimenopause. I need to get back to that number.
Okay. And then those of us who are in our 50s and never got those numbers checked, then what do you suggest?
Well, one of the things that you will have is you'll probably need to figure out getting back into balance. And that means getting those numbers checked. Doctors tend to move you into the range of normal.
Okay.
And then you need to figure out which side of the range of normal do you feel most comfortable? Where do you feel that, I mean, for me, it was like, where does my body feel normal? Where do I feel sexy? Where is my body most responsive? Where is it easiest for me to get back to my ideal weight? Where is it that I'm thinking clearly? I'm not overly emotional. So those are variables. It's like, what's important to me? What do I want to get back to? Because a lot of these practitioners will say, well, what's important? What do you want to tweak to get back to? No, the rational person says, I just want to feel like myself again.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? So, do you want to be more sexually the way you were? Do you want to have more energy? Do you want to have it all? Then tell them that. Write down. Do things like track out certain things. Write down the things that you notice have changed. And when you go to that practitioner, these are the things that I want you to focus on.
Good info. And then the last thing I want to ask you is, I don't know why it's slipping my mind. I was trying to let you talk.
Gotu Kola is a good thing. It's a natural supplement.
I need it.
Lion's Mane. Lion's Mane is a good thing for that.
No, but what I was going to ask you was hormone replacement therapy had such a negative reputation for several years, and now more recently I'm hearing that, it was all, we were misinformed. So what can you tell us about that?
I look at it like this, and some people say to me, hormone replacement therapy is hormone replacement therapy. Like HRT and bioidenticals are still hormone replacement therapy. But I think the part that appealed to me, and I have to really kind of go back and dig in, it was, this is what I need to, you're going to compound versus give me something from an animal. So with bioidenticals, it's more compounded hormones for your body versus just off the shelf. And we're going to pull that and give it to you, which is Renee can come in and I'm going to give Renee and Nancy the same thing. Whereas with my bioidenticals, this is compounded to meet the deficiencies that I have in my body.
Okay, so I'm not familiar with bioidenticals.
Really?
So there's bioidenticals and there's hormone replacement therapy,
HRT,
or
yes.
bioidentical is another name for HRT?
Earlier on, people said it's the same thing. Bioidentical hormones are when you go to a compounding pharmacist. The compounding pharmacist will get your labs from your doctor and they will say, okay, you need this much estrogen to get you back into the range of normal. You need this much progesterone. You need this much testosterone. And then they will going to give you this much. The doctor will say, I'm writing your script at this to see how this gets you back to normal. With HRT, which I cannot take because I'm going to tell you what I know about it, but I have not taken it because I'm cancer adjacent. It is less, what's the word that I want? It is less specific and more general from my understanding. What's one of the things that it takes? Like, say, for example, estrogen. You'll take estradiol, and it will be regular off the market, kind of like birth control pills. Like, there's some doctors that will put women on birth control pills to give them that estrogen. Estrogen and birth control pills is not real specific. Whereas if you take, Karen needs this much estrogen, they're going to compound it so that I have exactly that much estrogen in a cream, in a troche, in an injection, depending upon what the form of delivery is. But it's going to be more attuned to what I need versus, here are some birth control pills.
Okay. And
Does
then,
that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. But the long as they get it. But look, so my other questions when you mentioned birth control pills, so women who have taken those for several years, are they finding that they're having a harder time with menopause, or what is there?
Different doctors are doing different things, and the part that, and I'm going to answer it this way: there's no real uniformity, because if you have someone who's been taking estrogen, large amounts of estrogen for years, and then we find that infusing higher doses or increased amounts of estrogen into your body makes you more susceptible to cancers, then now that's why they're pulling a lot of women who've been on birth control pills off of them. And then some of those women they'll put on bioidenticals because it's not as like birth control estrogen in your face. That's something I used to keep up with it, because I really was trying to figure out, can I step back into that dance? There are certain things that people are now coming up with that just targets the hot flashes, just targets the elevation of estrogen, and leaves some of the other things alone. I saw something the other day, and I said, oh, that would be interesting, because everyone needs to have estrogen.
Yeah.
You need to. You've got to. That's what keeps you moist and juicy and fluffy.
Fluffy?
Yeah.
I don't know if we want fluffy, but...
Yeah. Fluffy in terms of helps your body with, like the collagen. I mean, like you want the estrogen and the collagen are kind of tied together. So you really want to have as much I call estrogen girl juice. You want as much girl juice as possible to kind of keep you up and going.
Okay. Well, thank you, Karen. Any last words, anything that you...
I'm on social. I'm on social as I'm Wink, Blink, and Flirt.
Wink, Blink, and Flirt. Is that
on TikTok and on Instagram? I'm Wink, Blink, Flirt. And just real, just kind of full circle. Wink, Blink, and Flirt was created because there was a point in my late 40s I realized I have not wanted to wink at a guy. I have not kind of stared down a guy in that sexy, alluring way, and I haven't wanted to flirt at anyone. I said, and I looked around, I saw a lot of women with mom jeans and people who were just kind of like, just like nose diving into just like being like mom, boring mom. And I said, I don't want to be that. I want to still be sexy and juicy. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I said, I want to help other women regain that posture.
Okay.
And so that's where Wink, Blink, and Flirt came from.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we'll have to talk about that next time, because we want to know how we regain that posture. We didn't get to that. So that'll be part 2.
There you go. And I really want to have you come on, because it's the conversation about that food is so important, and the peace. The food and the peace go together so much. The lack of peace means binging, and I really want to talk to you and have you on Girl Bye about how we maintain that peace and how we get that balance with food.
Okay, and Girl Bye is your show that comes on when and where?
Basically, I've taken Girl Bye from that podcast where I had it with a group of women, and now I'm taking it to on platform, on social, like specifically TikTok, and having some of those conversations like we had before about friendships and things of that nature. So,
okay, and when can they listen to that on TikTok or watch on
TikTok? That is going to be, it's once a week, and that Girl Bye will be on Friday afternoons from 7 to 8. Eastern Standard Time. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. Karen and I met at a podcast summit around this time last year. And I was sitting at the bar. You sat down next to me, and we've been friends ever since.
Absolutely, best investment I've made. Made some very great friendships.
Yes,
I'm so glad to have met you. I'm so glad I went.
Same here, of course. All right, thank you for watching another episode of Unapologetically Fly, and see you next time. Thank you for watching. Now be sure to like, subscribe, share with your besties, and tell me what topics would you like more of in the comments below, so I know I'm not just sitting here talking to myself. I also invite you to join me in the Well Divas on one of our Unapologetically Fly wellness travel experiences. Visit welldiva.com and select someplace wonderful to meet up with us. Until next time, stay unapologetically fly.